This clip is from my conversation with Himani Naresh, a first-generation immigrant and tech executive turned nonprofit leader whose journey from being arrested over a $1.25 subway fare to graduating from Wharton and leading global teams shows how resilience actually gets built in real life. Really appreciate you being willing to come on here and trust us with your stories. So that said, the podcast always starts the same way. Where are you from?
Yeah. First, thanks, Jeff, for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here. Being on a podcast is one of my bucket list items, so I'm glad that we made this happen sooner rather than later. Where am I from? I was actually born in India, but we left India. My family left when I was about 1 year old, and we moved around a little bit. I moved to the UK, moved back to India, then I moved to the US when I was 7. But when people ask me that, I really consider myself to be from the great state of New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey since second grade till post-college when I moved out here to the Seattle area. But yeah, I feel like I have a little bit of East Coast attitude, West Coast values. So I love both coasts and I visit there often, but Seattle is now my home.
East Coast attitude and West Coast values. I love that. That's a great mix to have too.
Yeah.
So if we could, you moved here when you were 1.
I left India when I was 1, but I moved to the US when I was 7.
When you're 7. Okay. So you spent a good amount of time. You said it in the UK?
Yeah, in the UK and India. Yeah. But I was very little. So there's not a lot of memories of things that I did there other than like pictures of me at 3 years old in front of the Eiffel Tower or something. But
that's neat. But so I'm curious, what was it that took your parents? I'm assuming it was with your parents. What took your parents from India? And also just curious, what part of India are you from?
Yeah, I was born outside of a town called Delhi. So I'm from Uttar Pradesh. And my father has a really amazing story. So he was one of lots of children, and he was the only one in his family who pursued higher education. And he actually got a Commonwealth scholarship to go study at the University of Sheffield outside of London. And so he got his PhD. And I was born in India, and he brought my mom and myself along. And then when we were in the UK, my sister was born. But he has an amazing story. And I've been to his village in India, and just seeing like where he came from and where he ended up in life is just amazing. And then we ended up in New Jersey, and that's where my brother was born. So we're a family of 5. And my whole family has gone off to do great things. But yeah, so I've grown up with a mix of cultures, and just feel very blessed.
So you leave the UK when you're 7, you moved to the Garden State. And what part of Jersey were you in?
So kind of the north part of New Jersey. I often do New Jersey by what mall you're next to. I know that doing New Jersey by what exit off the turnpike you're from is a common practice, but we didn't live off the turnpike. So we used to live near the Short Hills Mall in a little town called Berkeley Heights. And then my parents eventually moved to Warren Township, which is near the Bridgewater Mall. Yeah.
I like the connection with the mall, especially.
Yeah. There are a lot of malls in New Jersey, I think so. But it's about an hour away from Manhattan. And it was a great place to grow up. So
do you think that would be an interesting place to grow up? I mean, did you spend much time in the city, or did you mostly stick in the suburbs?
Growing up with my family, we spent most of the time in New Jersey in the suburbs. I don't think my parents were huge city folk, but once I started, kind of later in high school, was more mobile on my own without my parents. We would go into the city with my friends. And I actually went to school in the city. I went to Columbia University. So went from a very small, little town, sheltered life, and then got thrown into the Upper West Side. But it was great. I don't know if we should put this on the podcast, but I actually got arrested when I was 17 for jumping toll on the New York.
Definitely put this in the podcast. Let's go through this. So
yeah, so I was 17 years old, and it was Christmas time, and my friends and I went into the city to go ice skating at Central Park and to go visit the tree at Rockefeller Center. And all day we had been taking the subway, and one of my friends told us that we could put 1 token into the turnstile and 2 people could go through. So that's what we had been doing all day. And at the end of the day, we were at Rockefeller Center, and we checked out the tree, and we were, heading back home. We were going to go pick up our cars, which were in somewhere in Lower Manhattan. And we did it again. And there was an undercover cop who caught myself and my girlfriend, and we were handcuffed for 4 or 5 hours, and it was quite a ride.
For 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because it was right by the Rockefeller Center tree, and they were trying to get a police van to take us over to the precinct. And because there was so much traffic, because it was right by the tree, we were there for quite a bit of time. And that was my run-in with crime. It was all over $1.25. So kids,
Oh my
crime does not
gosh.
pay. But it's
Did
not
they
on my
actually?
record. They actually, the cops were really nice. We were the only two girls who got arrested. None of my friends got arrested, but they let us go after a few hours of being handcuffed. But yeah, that's my my run-in with the law.
So you're just sitting there, like I can imagine. You're in a New York City subway station, just sitting there with your hands cuffed.
Yes,
You didn't actually. They ultimately didn't get the car, so they didn't take you down to the precinct and do the whole
they did
thing. But
actually.
oh,
They
they
did.
did. So you had to ride
Yeah,
in the
they did.
car and everything.
Yeah.
And did your friends just bail? They just booked it. They're like,
Oh no,
we're
my
out of
friends
here.
were great.
They
They
stopped.
they hung around. They kind of followed the cop car so that they could get us home, etc. They called my parents, which is another full story. But yeah, no, they were really great. So
Well,
it's kind of, I think it's the 25th or maybe 30th anniversary of that whole. It was 1995. So yeah, 30 years ago that happened. Yeah, over $1.25.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was like such a. You remember very well clearly now, but I mean, was it one of those things you're just like, this is a decision moment where this is never happening to me again. I'm like, this is terrifying, or was it, or do you just think this is a joke? Or I mean, how did you? I would have been
I think I
so.
was pretty devastated when it first happened because I didn't know
Yeah.
what was happening. And then while it was happening, like we were talking to the cops and we were laughing and, we're like, oh no, we're college bound. Like we were not your model criminal, I guess I would say. So it was, it was very interesting. And, I laugh about it now. I laugh about it with my friends and family and stuff, but it was so long ago. But yeah, it's just a funny
That's
story.
hilarious. So you said the phone call was another experience. I mean, how did that go when you had to call your folks? So was this you're like
Um,
in jail and they're like, this is your one phone call kind of thing, like just like in the movies, or what was it?
Well, it was I was sitting in the precinct and we were just waiting there trying to figure out what their next step was. And then the phone rang and there's a frantic lady on the other end looking for her daughter, which was my mom. I would say like, you know, going home, I thought I would be in so much trouble. But actually, my parents were really cool about it. They were just like, you were in handcuff for 4 hours. There is nothing more that we could do to you that's worse than that. So they were generally pretty cool about it. But it's always a good learning experience, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times have people pretended their kid is like under 12 so that they can get the free meal, or you sit on your tiptoes to like be like 2 inches taller to get on the ride or whatever.
Totally.
So people do these things. Is it criminal? Is it, trying to save a couple of bucks? We were
I mean,
kids.
it's like the equivalent of going 5 miles an hour on a speed limit, right? I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's technically
exactly.
you're breaking the speed limit, and you
Yeah.
might get a ticket for it, but also
Yeah.
everyone does it. So
Yeah.
I just want to know this: when you ask your friend, does she tell the story? And she's like, "I had this friend who was," or, I mean, was it really one of those things that was like, "You're the mastermind of this thing," or was it?
That friend of mine, we're still really, really good friends. I just visited her in Florida and we just laugh about it. I don't know if she tells the story like I do. It would be interesting to compare notes. I should ask her the next time I see her.
Definitely. Okay. So
Yeah.
after you decide a life of crime, is it for you? And you I love, and that's classic. I love that because that's a classic New York story. I mean, it's not going to happen anywhere else literally. Like to be, it's so unique to be able to go into the city and go ice skating. Like that's in every single
Yeah.
Christmas movie or I think ever is there's a scene of the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center and the ice skating rink there. And I think that's
Yeah.
just so iconic to do that. And then to cap it off with
Yeah.
the
But I have so
jumping the
many
turnstile.
train stories. I think I was shakedown for a bribe in Rome on the train station. I was almost kicked off the train on the way from Vienna to Prague. I feel like trains and
Trains don't go well with you is the takeaway.
yeah, I
So
guess
I mean,
so.
was that so okay? So you're what are you doing in Vienna on the way to Prague? First of all,
So basically, actually, to be fair, it was Prague to Vienna,
okay, Prague to Vienna. Okay,
and we had bought a ticket to the sleeper car, and I thought that the person who would sell us a ticket to the sleeper car would also sell us a ticket to the train. But we got on the train and they were like, you have a sleeper car ticket. You don't have a train ticket. And we were like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Like, why would they only sell us one? And so they were like, well, we're going to let you off at the next station. Or I don't know if this was a shakedown for a bribe or not, but we kind of locked ourselves in our cabin. We did not get out and they eventually let us go. But I've also been shaken down for a bribe on the Mumbai train station. So yeah. So trains are a little sketchy, I think, sometimes,
But that one
especially in
was
other countries.
This was a short clip from the 4Fs podcast where I sit down with founders, veterans, and executives, world-class experts that you won't hear on every other show, to talk about leadership, entrepreneurship, and personal reinvention. For the full conversation and more context, tap the link in the description or search 4Fs podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. And if you're enjoying these shorter episodes, make sure to follow along so you don't miss tomorrow's clip.
Welcome to the 4Fs with Jeff.